The Kitchen Table Incension Podcast, brought to you by the BB blog. Are we fully human yet?
I haven't figured out the live thing, but I do want to say I am delighted and honored that you just moved. You made this huge cross-country trip and you're giving me your time today. And I'm touched. I really am. And I got to say, I was telling Kelly this earlier. She came on camera. I don't know if I'm going to show the camera, but I kind of have to show your beautiful face because you've got this glow, and that immediately says that whatever you're doing is flowing, you're alive, and sometimes people will make a choice and it shows in the physicality.
Mm-hmm.
Is that on my end? I have black helicopters flying over sometimes. So
is it your end or is it my end? It could be the air conditioner. I can turn it off.
No, that was definitely a flying machine sound. So anyway, no, it's gone. But welcome, Kelly Farmer, explaining Esoterica.
Yeah, I mean,
you are, yes. I am really keen to know what people's processes are. And it can get a little challenging because I don't want to be overly personal, and I know there's a lot of your fans and friends who probably would be clamoring if this were a live YouTube, asking all kinds of personal questions of you, which is all very well and fine, but I'm really, really keenly interested in the esoteric part, those esoteric, hidden, sweet, dark places of Miss Kelly Farmer. And, I am really drawn to your material. The more I tune into what you do, it says I have a low battery. I'm going to finish the sentence. I'm going to plug in. I am very aware of the similarities in our interests,
mm-hmm.
spirituality, all things esoteric and occulted, which just means hidden. So give me 1 second. I have to figure out why. Oh, that's why, because the plug fell out. We don't want my machine crashing while I'm doing this.
No, we do not.
So I'm going to start with this question. What is your biggest specific interest in esoteric history?
That's a difficult one to answer. Like my specific interest, I think it's using, I guess, spirituality and religion and kind of mythology to take a glimpse at what people before thought about things and explanations of things, and how they may still ring true today in the modern era. That, maybe those explanations they had back then, even though may seem ridiculous now, could actually still hold a grain of truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what I'm looking for, and what drives me, my passion, my show, all of that. Though I try not to focus on it all week, every week, because I don't want people to kind of go insane.
Yeah. See, I would just love it if you were focusing on that, but that's me. And there's an intensity behind that desire. So I understand. So what I hear you saying is your drive, your passion comes from this desire to kind of break down where we're at now in our times with finding those authentic nuggets that are the motivators for the paths that have been handed down to us. I totally get that. Pardon me 1 second. What I'm going to do, if I can find it, I'm going to pause this for 1 second because these headphones are not working. Hang on. Oh no, we're back, and I share that with you, Kelly. I wonder if when you were growing up, did you feel these stretches? I'm just relating my own experience, and I want to know if this is something that you relate to. I feel like the boredom or ennui, this like, what is going on? And then something would get my attention, perhaps historical fiction or having some kind of heightened experience. That's what, where I was drawn in. And I kind of sense that from you. However, I have to say, I'm also really intrigued with your background, your lovely background with Buddhism, which really intrigues me. So this is my ADHD here. Of course, I'm like, all this stuff is coming in. How did that inform your interest now, your passions now, would you say, if you can sum it up?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, growing up in a family where religion was mildly important, the importance was basically the importance what really was on tradition over religion, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. I know that one. Mm-hmm.
So my father is actually a Southern Baptist.
That's
and he comes
wild. Wow.
So his entire family is, and but he never really pressed that upon us.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother was obviously Buddhist, though she was not raised Buddhist.
Oh, interesting.
I was raised Cao Dai, which I've mentioned before on my show once or twice.
Can you
really
give us
yeah,
what that is? Can you explain a little bit more?
It's like a combination of Buddhism and Catholicism.
Right.
That are kind of merged together. So she went to Catholic school, but she did a lot of Buddhist traditions. So when I was, very young, it wasn't about the Buddhism and it wasn't about the religion with my mother. It was more about the ancestor veneration, about making sure to, respect the deities, say the prayers, light the incense. But it wasn't really actually about the beliefs. So growing up, I was actually very free to kind of explore. I had friends that were of various Christian denominations, as well as, Jewish. I had a couple of Jewish friends as well, but the majority of my friends were actually Mormon.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So I went to church with everyone. So I've gone to, evangelical church. I've gone to Lutheran church, various Protestant denominations, Mormon, obviously. I've spent a lot of time at the Mormon church.
Sounds like you were, how fortunate. It sounds like your parents were pretty open-minded about, that's rare from my experience, but you're also younger than I am. And
I'll be honest with you, my father didn't really have a strong leaning either way. Because I think growing up Southern Baptist, he knew what it was like to kind of be under a church that was very strict about its beliefs. That was very, very much fire and brimstone. And if you don't follow this, then you're going to go to hell. And I think that was a little much for him. So he decided not to press that upon us. my mother's point of view, due to the fact that she was raised cow dai, which is a very open religion, Buddhism is also very open in both senses.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to my mom, as long as we were practicing something, that was better than nothing.
Good for her.
So they weren't so as I said, they weren't, too hard about it. I did find myself explaining to a lot of people because growing up, I'll be honest, a lot of people I knew weren't Buddhists in my age group. I remember my senior year in high school, I was in a class with other people that were of Asian descent, but I was the only one that was a practicing Buddhist that was open
amazing.
about it. Yes. So the teacher was shocked, by the way, because he goes, well, is anybody here? Because he was just trying to talk about political leanings of different religions was really what the topic was.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, well, is anybody Buddhist? And I didn't really say anything because I didn't want to kind of press it. And then I remember one of my classmates was like, well, Kelly is. And he was shocked and he's like, really? But.
Well, it's rather unusual from my experience, just from my experience, which is, and it's very intriguing to find a person like you who has that background, and you bring it into your work. I mean, you definitely, what you're expressing to me, I see the flavor of your background. It's beautiful and it's lovely. And what also comes to mind is, how in the heck did your parents hook up with each other? That in itself is very intriguing to me.
That is a good question. And I will tell you that my father is actually a veteran of the Vietnam War. My mother is obviously a refugee of the Vietnam War. However, they did not meet, contrary to popular belief. They actually met at work.
Oh my God. Well, some things are just meant to happen, right?
Yes, I think so. So
yeah, that's a perfect example.
At work, probably 3 or 4 years after the war had ended.
Wow.
And that's kind of how they met. And then they fell in love. My father was the first Caucasian person to join the family.
Wow.
And from then on, it kind of went from there. And they were, as I said, very, very open. So that allowed me to explore. And through my exploration, I fell back, really, I committed. And because I found some sort of quiet with Buddhism, I guess. Some sort of like spirituality that I felt was missing and other things. But I also felt the freedom to not be solely Buddhist. I never felt that Buddhism answered all of the questions. But I also never believed that Christianity answered all the questions. I felt that it was always a combination of different belief systems that would answer the question.
I'm with you 1,000,000,000%.
So, I mean, now at this point, I'm a practicing chanter for obvious reasons. But no, that in itself, though, does the same thing for me. It allows me kind of that freedom to focus on what spiritual texts I want to focus on, and to focus on what sort of chants I want to do. And honestly, more often than not, it's allowing me the structure to practice a lot of those things from Buddhism that I never did, even though
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I resonate with you so much, and on this probably soul sister level. And I recognized immediately, I think it was when you were speaking about the deities, particularly the goddesses, and your very, very grounded but reverent attitude, very light-hearted but not lightly taken attitude of these beings, which really moved me, and I started tuning in, right away. And of course, I found you through my love and appreciation of the myth, the man, the legend, C.W. Chanter. But that's not what I want to talk about. I really want to talk about your interests and your passions, and how you are finding the change that you're experiencing, because this is going to be ongoing, right? from Southern California. You got in the car. I love those videos. Oh my God, I've got it. Very, very motivated to do a road trip. How are you experiencing that in your innermost awareness?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm expressing my question properly, but I think you get it.
You know, if hopefully I'm understanding your question, but I'll tell you that there is a distinct difference between the two. Coming to visit the East Coast and coming to live on the East Coast are two very different things. The energy of the people and the energy flow of things is very, very different.
In what way?
Not to say that it's bad in any way, shape, or form. I'll be honest with you, one of the biggest things that I can say is that probably the people, like on a face-to-face level, in general, are actually more friendly and more open on the East Coast than they are in Southern California, because in Southern California, we have so much space.
I hear you loud and clear. I
And
know.
people are able to, people are traveling in cars. I had this cousin that lived in Seattle and came to visit, and his biggest criticism of Southern California was, because you're all riding alone in these boxes, side by side, but separated by steel. And it was so poetic when he said it.
Mm-hmm.
But, really thinking about him saying that, it does, resonate at this point. Now I'm in a location where everyone is so close together, and they're, basically their energy is all intermixing with each other, and you have to be open and you have to be able to speak to people. Though I will openly admit that when it comes to anything that has to do with transportation, so be it driving in a car, riding a bus, taking a train, anything like that, people are 100 times more aggressive. So
I've experienced a teensy bit of that because I've only visited. I've never lived, on the East Coast.
I have been yelled at more times in 1 week with regards to public transportation. I've been honked at. I've been yelled at with regards to the bus multiple times. I've been yelled at with regards to the train. But it's not that they're trying to be mean or hurt my feelings.
No. It's just the way it is, right?
It's the way it is. And there's so many people trying to get places that if one person holds it up, then it holds up. You're talking hundreds of thousands.
Right. It's a cultural behavior, right? Yeah. So
that's really what it is. But it is also kind of that feeling of feeling so small in such a big place.
Mm.
But I'm getting used to that. And I think that once I find, right now I'm kind of in a holding pattern because I have yet to find a job or to secure a job. I've gone on several interviews. I have some jobs in the pipeline, but until I have something like nailed down, I'm kind of like in this weird holding pattern where I'm kind of in a self-conscious feeling. Because so much of me in my personal life is defined by the fact that I have like a stable, strong career.
Sure.
So at this moment, that's been destabilized.
Wow, this is an amazing transformational time for you. So what's happening is that your ego identity that you have been relying on as an aspect of yourself is no longer there. Whoa, that's like that's like being on, I get the image of like a carousel, but you, Callie, you have a really strong center. I just get that about you. There's this still core of Callie, which is rather delicious to have my eyes on right now, because you impart that, you express that, and you're going to be fine with the job. I mean, I just, gut-wise, that's the right one, will be present much sooner than later. And you're going to have choices available too. I get that. So I'm pleased on that score. But the space of being in between, whoa,
Yeah.
on a physical, on a mundane, on a practical, spiritual. So all of this is happening at once for you, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't know it by looking at your face.
I'm sorry, say that again?
You would not know it by looking at your face. You
Oh.
got, you just see, if I were doing this on YouTube and it was a live chat, people would be going, yeah, you're right, BB, you're right. She's so still. There's this lovely, equipoise, one of my favorite words, the quality of being completely still within tremendous activity, that's our Kelly.
But, now that things, because really, I'll be honest with you, BB, up until February, I had some really good momentum going with like my website and writing on my website and doing my show and developing things and working on my book. And I had all this great momentum going, and then I kind of lost the momentum.
Okay, I can speak to that. I can speak to that from my own experience. These are, it's a spiral. And these things happen in cycles, the creative, expressive aspects of ourselves. So something had to happen to make space for the change that you called in to your life.
Yeah.
And that's part of this being in between. You had to kind of let go, to be suspended more or less, in order to take the elements apart. And now you're in a place where you can choose how you want to reform and put them back together. So yeah, and I find myself in this. This is like the story of my creative life. So that's why I don't fret about it, which I don't think you fret that much. That's one thing that I really admire about the persona that you express. Maybe you do, but it's not expressed. And you do have that to offer, that stillness that we can just, it's there, you're offering it, that essence of you, that stillness. So it speaks well for what's going to happen. You've got your website, you've got your channel, you've got fans. You do have fans, bona fide fans, and people who really appreciate and value your work. So tell me about your book.
Well, because I had originally planned to do a book on Shambhala. But what ended up happening was I felt, because originally this is probably the silly part, because I had created my website and then I was going to give away a book. And it was going to be a short book, like 30-ish page.
Right.
Really, not even a book, really kind of like a pamphlet, I guess, is probably a better way to put it. And I was going to do it on Shambhala. I was going to do it on another topic too, but that topic felt too big. Shambhala also turned out to be too big of a topic for me to be able to get out something that I really wanted. I wanted it to be quality, but at the same time, I didn't want it to be an overwhelming amount of information. I wanted it to really portray my style while giving, the right amount of information, but also the right amount of, interest and kind of dialogue from me.
Right.
And I felt that while Shambhala is a good topic, it wasn't the right topic for this. So now, I've kind of decided to change the topic. I just haven't had time to go back to it because I kind of got busy with moving and getting everything going.
Yeah, it's just a few little things came up.
Got distracted by certain people. But now I'm here. And the hope is that now that I'm here and I get everything established, then I'll have time to work on it. And what I want to focus on, funnily enough that you brought up my whole goddess episode, is to do something along those lines in a more extended format.
Oh God, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. Oh, that's gorgeous. I want to share something with you. I had never really had a one-on-one relationship with the female beings, the feminine energy beings that I have access to, who have made themselves known in my life.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I had that conversation, when you did Kuan Yin and I showed you the photo, I have a relationship with her now. And I want to thank you for making me aware of the possibilities inherent in pursuing that. I mean, it's so beautiful. So if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be doing that. And prayer is involved and a bit of ritual, but I'm a rebel. I'll start a ritual, and it's like there are too many rules involved. Even if I'm the one who makes the rules. Nope, too many rules. Just the connection and being true to that connection. I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So you're going to do a book on the goddesses?
I'm going to do the 30-ish page pamphlet. Basically, it's going to pretty much be on, it's the episode I did on the different goddesses of mercy is going to basically be the launching point for that. I'm going to go into more depth. I'm going to find some more and really do like a full examination of them. And if it goes as successfully as I hope it does, then I will continue to do different ones on different, I guess, categories of deities. Because here is the thing, Bibi. If you look at the different types of deities in different belief systems, you can start to see similarities between them, which then begs to differ. Are they the same individual?
Exactly. Yeah.
Just with a different name. And really that is kind of, this goes all the way back to what I was saying about, a combination of different belief systems are really what are going to answer the question. If you keep going back and finding so many similarities, then you may even come to the conclusion that there may have been one single true belief system that may have been shattered in some way if you go back far enough. But I don't know for sure. But really, that's kind of, if you kind of keep tracing back, what are you going to find?
What comes to mind is the Kala Chakra tradition,
Mm-hmm.
and how it is. And I'm a total neophyte on that. I don't know that much about it. I have a dear friend who's been pointing me in that direction because it just has come up. The concepts have come up in conversations that he and I have had. But it's fascinating because the part of the practice is visualizing the deity.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you and the deity become one. And there are versions of this in some of the Siddha Guru practices that I did way back when I had my guru, and that was based on Hindu tradition. Mm-hmm. But there is something about the one, and that all of these deities are aspects of that one. See, I love this stuff. And I get to a point where it's really hard for me to express because I start getting high as I'm talking.
Yeah.
The bliss starts flowing. You're really good at being grounded and just going right there. So what is this thing that I'm talking about? I want to enlighten us.
It's, when you look at Hindu, for example, this is a good way to kind of look at it. When you look at the Hindu deities, it always comes back to kind of like the big three.
Mm-hmm.
And that the different deities are all just incarnations of the same ones over and over again. So that's kind of looking at it that way, that really kind of tells you really the best, like that really kind of tells you the answer, that it probably is true, that the same deities keep coming back. We just give them different names. Even if you look at Buddhism, there's been multiple Buddhas. And when I say Buddha, I mean Buddha in the sense of the Buddha who is here at each time, because there's supposed to be one Buddha in each kind of life cycle of the world. We had Siddhartha, Gautama Buddha. We're waiting for Maitreya, who some people feel is already here.
Mm-hmm.
Unclear. But prior to Siddhartha, there were, I think, 16 or 17 prior Buddhas to that. There were even primordial Buddhas. And it's the idea of the same energy reincarnating over and over again, just as we continually have the Dalai Lama, who is said to continually reincarnate. Though, what's interesting is there's two different things about our current Dalai Lama, which may also be kind of a sign of what's going on spiritually and energetically with the world. It's been said that he is the final of that spirit reincarnating as the Dalai Lama. However, what that has opened up is another kind of a position, a spiritual position, that can be really kind of the spiritual leader in that Eastern sense. I think China has tried to push an individual into that spot, though the Dalai Lama himself, from what I recall a few years ago, had already identified someone.
Right, I do recall.
Said that the person who's going to follow me up is already born, and we already know who he is. It's not the same spirit. It's a totally different individual, which is kind of both amazing and also scary, because what does that mean that, that this Dalai Lama, this spirit that is reincarnated here multiple infinite times, that he's done?
Okay.
What does that mean for us?
I'm going to switch gears a little bit, because you bring to my mind this recent development in Saudi Arabia. They're building, or maybe it's already built, but a structure which combines the ancient temple of Judaism, the major mosque of Islam, and the main church of the Pope. So the Pope and the major imam and major rabbis have gotten together, and they're talking about basically one world religion in Saudi Arabia. Now, I don't want to go all political and, conspiracy stuff, but that when you said, what does that mean, having a new entity coming in? That's what that brings to mind. And it just seems to me that the major religions cannot be separated from politics, even though they're supposed to ideally have nothing to do with politics, but they've been intertwined since the get-go. And it's unfortunate, but it seems to be the nature of this reality, doesn't it?
It does. I think that we're spiritually on the cusp of either total catastrophe or basically a whole new spiritual order coming through. It could go either way. I don't know.
I think it's going to go both ways. I think it already is going both ways. And where I come from, and I have a hunch that you probably come from the same place, it's up to each individual to look inside, to, know or know thyself. It's not about, I did the guru thing, and that was very valuable for me. This was many moons ago. I learned, but ultimately that my guru, thank goodness, pointed me to my inner entity, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So there are those who are really on the path of individual spiritual maturity, and living life in compassion and groundedness and whatever love means. Love is such a, it's very, we don't even know what love means. It's a power. It's a power. And then there are those who really are in a different level. And I don't mean a better than or lesser than, it's just a different place. There are those who do well with a teacher, a leader, a guide. So that's what I am concerned about, the difference in the levels of experience and understanding. And there's still, you know, these power manipulators out there.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think that's gonna head? Where do you think it's gonna end up?
You know, I'm not sure. I mean, ideally, I do kind of see it splitting off. I see it splitting off into the people that really are able to take their own spirituality and beliefs into their own hands and kind of, I guess, own them, so to say, and kind of create their own personal spiritual traditions. I guess what I'm saying is I kind of feel that we may have some sort of breakdown in the organization of religion, that not having like these big, huge things, and rather people kind of taking ownership. But here's the issue, in that those who, like you said, may not be comfortable with that or able to kind of move forward without some sort of guidance are then left open to becoming kind of the prey of those who would be willing to take advantage of that fact.
Thank you. You expressed that beautifully, what I was trying to say. Yeah. And you bring something else to mind. I went to film school ages ago in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I did a documentary about polarity healing, which was all the rage at that time. It's a very cool modality. But one of the guys on my crew, it was called The Inner Healer, and he goes, I can't get behind this. The idea that the great divine is inside. I'm not comfortable with that. And those are the kind of people I'm talking about. He was great. He was a lovely person. Maybe this was a long time ago, so maybe, you know, he's come around from my perspective, but you're absolutely right. Oh gosh. Okay. Help me out here, because I'm like spiraling out in all of these questions. Let's pick one. Okay. Where are we right now regarding the concept of parallel realities, simultaneous timelines, and the Mandela effect possibilities? What do you think?
I think that, okay, personally, I believe in those things. So we'll just start there. Okay. I believe that as a society, like as a general society of population overall, we're getting closer to that acceptance by the general population of people. I think people, you know, in our realm of practice are already pretty much there and know that it's happening.
Right.
But the general population, I think we're getting closer. You know, the whole idea of the Mandela effect, more and more people are aware of what that is. When you look at, you know, pop culture, and really for me, pop culture is a really good way and a really good, I guess, thermometer, so to speak, of kind of what's going on. And those types of things are being introduced. They were being introduced, you know, years ago, the idea of parallel realities, but it just keeps increasing over time, more and more instances of it. And there's whole TV shows dedicated to it. I know that, you know, back in like the 90s, we had Sliders, and we had later in the early 2000s, we had Fringe, and we've touched on it in so many different ways, even on, for example, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. You look at the science fiction, it's already been there. When you look at Rick and Morty, which C.W. Chanter hates, that is all that's basically the entire premise of the show, is that there are infinite realities that exist. And that whole TV show takes place in a countless number of them that only take part of like a small, like little piece of that.
Right.
And I think that if you were to believe, if one did believe in the whole, the government knows these things, but they don't tell people, that there is the belief by a lot of people that it's through the use of pop culture that these things get disclosed to the general population, so that when it finally does come out to be true, so to say, that it's easier for people to accept because they've already seen it portrayed. Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know that it's as easy as they say, as like, as it gets portrayed on television. But if you were to look even at the quantum computers and the qubits, and the whole, string theory, things along those lines, every time you look at it, it becomes more and more likely that that one of two things is happening. Either we have parallel realities or we're in some sort of matrix. Even Stephen Hawking stated it in his final paper before he died. He said either we live in a multiverse that is bound by the laws of physics, which means that you can't fly, there's gravity, things along those lines, that we live in a multiverse with countless universes that are all parallel to each other where similar things are happening, but they're all locked by those same laws, or we live in a matrix. That was basically the conclusion of his final paper.
Are you familiar?
Kind of how it went out.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the physicist Tom Campbell? My big toe theory?
No.
Okay, I'm going to send you links and I'll put them with wherever our recording is going out. He is an amazing guy. He was one of the founders of, oh gosh, it's contagious. I'll put it all there. But the Hemisync protocol by the a huge foundation, and he put that whole thing together. I'm not going to go off on that tangent right now because one, I can't remember the name, and two, I'll get the links. But I know, Callie, you'll be really, really intrigued with his material. And like you, it's not as simple as saying it's an either or. And I go back to a concept in the Kashmir Shaivite training I had. And there's this beautiful Sanskrit word called Jivan Mukta. And a jiva is a soul. Jivan Mukta means one who is awake within the dream. And as soon as I had that, I got all this stuff coming to me in my life after I had done all of my psychedelic spelunking and mushrooms, psilocybin in particular. I've never done ayahuasca. I'm a different generation. I'm the hippie I'm the Woodstock generation. Okay. And I did some extensive psychedelic exploration. I did. It was very valuable. And psilocybins in particular, the mushrooms in particular pointed me to that feeling, I think, that is being expressed with that term, Jivan Mukta, one who is awake within the dream. If you have not experienced a waking dream feeling, even for a moment, you're really missing out on something. And there's such wonder and magic to be aware of that. So like when I was a child, I remember feeling that a lot. And that's why I got so excited, when I was in my 20s and I was spelunking along with shrooms and LSD and things and stuff like that. Those were the drugs of choice back then. But it was because it was opening up my memory to how I felt when I was a kid in my natural state. Can you imagine if we all felt that way? This world is so mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
You don't have had to have done any drugs whatsoever to know what I'm talking about.
But yes, I do know what you're talking about, baby.
So it's not about this one timeline or parallel realities. It's not an either or. It's both and beyond. It's all and beyond. It's inner, as above, so below. They say I'm like as above, so within, so beyond.
Yes. And I mean, kind of speaking to that and kind of tangential, but still pretty close to what we're talking about. I mean, if you look at manifestation and how I believe manifestation works,
I do too.
in that you're here, like I'm here, and I want to be there. I was in California, right? And I wanted to be in New Jersey.
Right.
And how does one manifest that? And I don't know if people realize necessarily that you can't, obviously nothing works by magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all a series of decisions that you make and intentions that you set. And it could be said that you're in one reality, I'm in California. In another reality, I'm in New Jersey. And there's this big gap in between. Well, that gap in between is built up of all of the tiny little realities in between. They're all, less than half a degree off from each other. So that if you're in one, it's hard to distinguish from the previous one. And it's also hard to distinguish from the next one. But, 20 dimensions down, for example. This sounds crazy, but
not to me, it doesn't.
There is a difference. So it's like every step that you take, every minute that you're living your past, it could be said that you're passing through a different reality. And every decision that you make, you're slowly getting over to the reality you're trying to get to.
I love that. Yeah.
So there's no way to jump to be like, I'm here. And unless it's something magical, like winning the lottery, for example, there's no way to be like, I'm here, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. There's only certain big things that can happen.
Right. There has to be a cooperation between ourselves and our intention and the divine system.
Yes. So it's much easier to then instead make the decision that I want to get to point B. I want to buy a house. So you focus on buying the house. So you have to pass through all these smaller realities that take you from where you are to being at the point of buying a house. And that is really how true manifestation works. It's not it's not like instantaneous like some people believe that it is, because in some cases it can be if you're lucky and things line up like
yeah, it's like cosmic AAA. You set up your points on your cosmic map, right, of where you want to end up, and you got to go here and you got to go there.
Yeah, you got to.
I agree with. I absolutely agree. It requires a certain discipline of visualization, and the manifestation is all about intentionality and focus. And you went from Southern California to New Jersey, and I love it.
Yes, so I had to make all the decisions.
And you did it fast too.
You know what? If I could, I would have done it faster, if that makes sense.
I understand. I do.
I did do it fast though. I luckily had a few things set up to make it a little bit easier. I had money saved because I was planning on, for example, getting my own place anyway. That was like a long-term plan. So then I just readjusted that towards this. And then it
Right.
was really just, finding a place, finding a job, things like that. Though obviously not all of those have fallen into place yet. The job has not fallen into place. So, I have plans and hopes that it will very, very soon. So,
Yeah, and that's part of the manifestation process too.
yeah.
And maintaining that energetic of basically good vibes. Optimism is so important,
Yes,
isn't it?
it is.
It makes a real difference in the outer manifestation, I have found. Which is one of the reasons I'm drawn to you and your energy, because you don't make a big deal of gushing whatsoever. You're so down to earth. And there's this really almost serious quality, but lightheartedness. So just an observation on my end. Right. And you've got all of these projects going, and you haven't missed a beat, Miss Kelly. Honestly, I mean, even the what you did in filming your trip across America, and you didn't drop a ball. You have kept going. You've got your shows. That's something that I think a lot of people should pay attention to. Look at how Kelly has done this, and it was a simple process, really, I think, of, it wasn't like, oh, you're very lightheartedly, I'm going to do this, I'm doing this, I've got this in place, I don't want to let this go. Even though you say that your book got sidetracked, but it's going to be and is coming back together in the most beautiful way from where it started.
Yes.
I love that.
And,
well done.
yeah. I mean, honestly, if my book had come together with that topic,
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't have been happy with the outcome anyway.
I can't wait.
So my new book, I think it's because I've narrowed it down so much.
Yeah.
And I have, a good place to start. I think that's going to make me much happier with the product.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I have a lot of questions, but that's for another time. I love where you're at. I love how you came to this point. I love that you're sitting here with me now. And I know you've got some stuff going on YouTube a little later, pretty soon, like, right?
In a few hours, yeah.
Okay, good.
You got time.
Yeah, I want to give you the space for that. I love you, Kelly. We met very briefly at Contact in the Desert. I gotta say, guys, it was just the coolest thing, because you have this, I met CW and Kelly together at Contact in the Desert this last May for the first time. And I always, before I meet people that I like from afar, I worry a little bit, and I have been let down. No. The actual physical reality of coming into contact with you was even better, than the virtual reality. So the virtual reality is pretty good anyway. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And CW did want me to tell you hello.
Oh,
I forgot to tell you that.
he's a gem, and yeah. I kind of want to say it and I don't, but I'm just going to say it. The word power team, the phrase power team, because of your respective individual qualities, it's a both and beyond kind of a deal. But there's something very unique, and it'll be very fascinating to see the public aspects of both of yourselves as you choose to bring them forward, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, tarot. You're both very gifted in that, and thank you. I'm taking lessons from your ability to manifest the shows and the intentional focus points of bringing them out. Yeah. You should teach how to do that, but that's another show, right?
Well, I'm planning on bringing back my Sunday readings.
I hope you do, because
I just kind of got
sweet.
so sidetracked, and then the move really kind of threw everything off.
Oh, I'm not surprised at
Because
all
that was a big
happened.
secret too. I didn't tell anybody.
Can I share something with you? I didn't know, even when I was tuned in to your to your shows when you were, doing that the pre-recorded. I thought you were on a road trip with your brother, just to be on a road. I had no idea. And I was, as they say, gobsmacked. And I just went, woohoo. And I started jumping up and down. She moved. She did it. She moved. Inspirational, darling, really.
Yeah, it was scary, but ever
Sure.
since it's been fun. So
Yeah. Good for you. And I'm going to ask you if rounding up, ending up, is there something at this point in time that you want to add to the discussion?
I don't know. I mean, not necessarily.
I'm asking, and you don't have to. And my style, as I think you've probably gathered, is much more intuitive, free flow, and inspired by being in the moment with it. So this was a lot of fun, and I want to do it more, as I say, because I just value you and you're fun, and you for selfish reasons too, because when I'm in conversation with you, I get inspired from within in the places that are really important that I feel passionate about. So, it's selfish. I want to do it more.
No, I love talking to you, BB, and you need to come back. You were the first guest that I had when I started doing Tuesday nights.
That's right. What an honor. I would love to. Yeah. Well, let's do it.
Just schedule you to come back soon.
I would be honored to. I would love to do that. Okay, darling. Well, to be continued. I mean,
Definitely.
yes, ongoing spiraling inward, outward too.
Yes.
And to the goddess. Take care, dear.
Thank you, B.
And I'll be tuning in later.
Well, thank you.
All right. And give my love to CW if you wouldn't mind.
I will for sure.
Thank you. Okay. Over and out.
Bye, V.
Anon, sweet one.
Have a good night. Or afternoon, I guess, for you.
Yeah, I'm still in the afternoon. It's a couple minutes before 3 p.m. And thank God the weather is gloriously foggy and cool.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Soon.